AARP is dedicated to empowering people to choose how they live as they age. We have a long history of supporting veterans, military, and your families, including over 4 million who are AARP members today. There are 5.5 million military and veteran caregivers. We make it a priority to point you to resources that can help you provide better care for your loved ones and yourself. Veterans are twice as likely to be targets of con artists. AARP's Fraud Watch Network and the U.S. Postal Inspection Service have teamed up on Operation Protect Veterans to share tips on how military families like yours can protect themselves. AARP helps veterans better understand the civilian job-seeking process and helps military families identify financial milestones that make sense for you. With nearly 10% of our AARP's membership being veterans and military, we are dedicated to meeting your needs as you have sacrificed for our great nation. From all of us at AARP, thank you for your service.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Jill Hines, the Associate. Good morning. I'm Jill Hines, the Associate State Director of AARP for AARP Georgia's Outreach. And we want to welcome you to this very important health and wellness discussion on veteran transition. And AARP, as you know, was founded in 1958 by Dr. Ethel Percy Andrus. We are a nonprofit, nonpartisan member organization. AARP has been working to promote the health and wellness of older Americans for more than 60 years and is leading the revolution in the way that we view and live life after the age of 50. AARP's vision is social society in which all people, and I repeat again, all people live with dignity and purpose and fulfill their goals and dreams. Our moderator today is Garrett Davis, the CEO and founder of G. Davis Productions. Garrett's mission is to educate and advocate through laughter in the performing arts. His plays, such as, just to name a few, Mama's Girls, which is on diabetes, Daddy's Boys on prostate cancer, Sisters at Heart on heart disease, and Forget Me Not on Alzheimer's. These bodies of work impact the way that we learn, feel, and think about health, not to mention how they help us so that we can start a very uncomfortable conversations that we may have to start sometimes, but they're very important conversations that we may have to have with our loved ones. And if you have any questions today, during today's discussion, you can definitely add them into the chat. And without further ado, I want to present to you our moderator for today's discussion, Garrett Davis. Good morning, Garrett.
Hey, Jill, how you doing today?
Doing good.
Good. So we've been doing this since August. We started off in August with a conversation on prostate cancer. Our guest was Mr. Tom Farrington from the Prostate Health Education Network. Then in September, we did Living With on Alzheimer's disease. And our guest was Stephanie Johnson Monroe with Us Against Alzheimer's. Then in October, we had back-to-back guests of identical twins, Kimberly Ketter and Sean Rivers. And the first discussion was on heart disease, because at 40, they discovered they had congestive heart failure. And 10 years later, plus, they're living a healthy life. We've written a production on them. And then we brought them back in November because even though they have heart disease, they own a diabetes clinic in Petersburg, Virginia. And we talked about the importance of diabetes and taking care of yourself and changing your lifestyle. And today is our final run for 2020. And we're excited because it's about veterans. And that's important to me. I had an uncle who served in the military. He was 82nd Airborne. And I talk about it a lot in my play Forget Me Not. But, personally for me, there are a lot of things that I hear that don't make sense. And one of the things that don't make sense is two words that go together, like homeless veteran. That doesn't make sense to me. How can you be homeless and be a veteran who have served and protected this country. And so which led us to us, AARP and G. Davis Production Films, putting a piece together, and we're still in development, called Clearly Invisible. And it's amazing how, as a civilian, I will drive and I will pass a person on the side of the road holding a sign. And sometimes, the first thing that goes through my mind, are they for real? Are they truly that? But after the work, getting involved with AARP, I've learned to kind of put those in the back of my mind first. And so, we can never take for granted where someone is, but that could be us. And so today I'm very excited to be talking with a plethora of informative people, who have interesting stories, like Matthew Pennington, Dr. Robert Noble, who I think is a comedian. I've only met him today for the first time, but I can't wait to hear him talk about, his work. Vita Brooks, Nicole Durham, Stephanie Go, and others. So before we jump into it, since this is all about veterans, let's take a moment and let's reflect on what it means to live in a free country like the United States of America. And let's hear the singing of our national anthem done by Julie Logan, who stars in Mama's Girls. She plays Baby Girl, and the film was just released by AARP New Orleans just a couple of weeks ago. So let's take a minute and reflect on what it means to be proud in our country, and let's do the singing of our national anthem by Julie Logan.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you so much, Julie Logan from Mama's Girls. And I'm sure at some point AARP Georgia will be presenting Mama's Girls, the return of Mama's Girls, which deals with taking care of a loved one during this COVID. And so we're excited about that. Working with Jill is always a pleasure. Jill and I, under the direction of our leader, Deborah Tyler Horton, came up with an idea of trying to present a piece that dealt with veterans. And we've done it, I think, twice in the Atlanta area. We're still in development stages because we wanted to be correct and we wanted to represent the military in a very fun way, but it's called Clearly Invisible. And when I first wrote the piece, it was really dealing with how people look at military and look right through them. You could have a female that served in the military and she's married, they go to an event, and when they say, Captain Hines, thank you for your service, they go to Jill's husband versus going to her. There's this unconscious bias that we just automatically assume if you serve in the military, you're a man. The unconscious bias of overlooking what women go through. And so after we did it the first time, and Jill had some great people who had served in the military, had done some great work, and we quickly found out that we really needed to also focus on how women are just clearly invisible, to society sometimes, and the work that they have done. So we're really excited about the work that we're doing with Clearly Invisible. We're looking forward to kind of in 2021 being able to present that in some type of film version, the way we're doing the rest of our projects. But I think, theater and film is a way of allowing people to see themselves on stage or on screen where they may be a little bit uneasy to share what they're going through. They can see how the impact that it has on others by looking at it on screen or looking at it on film. So Jill, before I bring on Matthew, I kind of want you to do the Veterans Overview Program with AARP. You kind of go through that first, and then I want to dive right into the program. I want to bring up Matthew Pennington. Okay, Jill?
Yes. So as I mentioned, AARP enhances the quality of life for all people as we age, and we champion for positive social change. And I also mentioned, AARP, just to give you a quick background of AARP, we were founded in 1958 by Dr. Ethel Percy Andrews. We are a nonpartisan nonprofit, and we have a membership of over 38 million nationally, and approximately a little over 1 million in the state of Georgia. Our offices are normally located in Midtown Atlanta. However, right now we're all working remotely. And just a quick, in case you've seen, I'm sure you've seen numerous of AARP commercials, but Dr. Andrews was an educator, and she was a retired educator, and she was in California. She founded the National Association of Retired Educators, and she heard about a lady who could not afford her medication and somewhere to live. When she went looking for her, she was directed to a chicken coop of all things, because this woman could not afford somewhere to live. And with that, AARP was born because Dr. Andrews did not want to just advocate for educators as they retire, but all people to retire and age with dignity. And so that's how AARP was founded. And with that, she also had a motto of serve and not be served. So in that thinking is how we came to advocate for veterans as well, because veterans have served their time and now is our turn to serve them. And in doing so, we have 4 pillars: family caregiving, financial security, and what we call recareering, which is starting a second career after your service, fighting fraud, or what we call Operation Protect Veterans. And then also we have numerous of key resources for veterans and their family members, which we're going to see and talk to some of our community partners that we have in the greater metro Atlanta and Georgia area today. So just to quickly, family caregiving, as we know, caregiving for veterans, no different from that of our elders and seniors. But the thing with veterans is, as we're going to hear from Matthew Pennington, that's something that can affect a young person. So our veterans, we think are cookie cutter, but we're not. You have veterans who may be injured at age 18, or someone who never was injured or never went to war, but served 30 years. So there's never a way to really categorize and cookie cutter our veterans. And the caregiving for them is no different. I have veterans who served 30 years, but they have found themselves in a sandwich type situation where they are not just taking care, they need care, but they also are taking care of their family member or their elderly parents. So we have veterans who are post 9/11 who may be taking care of their parents who served in the military, who are Vietnam or Korean War veterans. So everyone needs that caregiving, and we do caregiving in 5 very easy steps. And the very first thing in caregiving is starting that conversation. Finding partners to help you with the caregiving. We can't do it alone. Finding the resources, like we're going to talk to people today, putting the plan together. And then the last thing is taking care of yourself. If you don't take care of yourself, you are no good to anyone else. Financial security and recareering. We're helping veterans to connect the dots with, what are my resources? What are my my benefits? And how do I put together, if you have TRICARE for Life, along with Social Security, Medicare, and other types of resources that you may have or benefits you may have. How do I put all of these things together and make it work for me in my particular situation? Or if you want to start a business, a small business, how do I do that? Or you just want a small-time, part-time remote position right now, especially during COVID, working remotely is probably going to be very important. So we help you with those things. Fighting fraud, that is something that is affecting everyone, no matter if you're a small child going on the internet or on a cell phone, or if you're 90 years old. So it's something that affects us all. However, with veteran community, veterans are targeted because of their benefits, number one.
Mhm.
Number two, veterans are targeted for fraud because people know that veterans want to help one another. Veterans helping veterans makes you a target, unfortunately. So during this time of year is the most vulnerable time because it is a giving time of year. And just to say, today is Giving Tuesday, right? So they know, so you have individuals, you may get phone calls, you may get direct mail, or you may get organizations that are fraudulent, not just individuals, but you may find fraudulent organizations. So definitely vet the organizations that you decide to donate to, especially today on Giving Tuesday. And then the resources. So we have a plethora. You can go to aarp.org/veterans. I'll put that in the chat where you can go and find all things under our 4 pillars that are veteran related. All right, Garrett, back to you.
Thanks a lot, Jill. I think that the underlying factor of all human frailty is one's inability to recognize purpose. How can you recognize purpose when you feel as though you're at the bottom of the barrel, or you're going through and the weight of the world is on your shoulders? I think it's very important to tell your story. It is extremely important to tell your story. But once you go through, it can be hard because of the pride, because of, you don't want folks to know what's going on. So Matthew Pennington, I want to bring you on screen in just a minute. Matthew Pennington, hey Matthew, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
I want to first, before you even tell your story, I want to applaud you for having the courage and doing it, because a lot of times when we go through, it can be easy for us to think that we're the only ones going through, woe is me. But as bad as it is, I find it always helps someone else. And
Absolutely.
It always, it's never as bad as it seems. It's never as good as it seems. We have to find that even kill. So, man, I applaud you first and foremost, not just for serving our country, but also for serving others by telling your story. So, without further ado, take your time, tell your story, and then we'll dive into it.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Garrett, and thank you, everybody else. So my story honestly began when I was 17 years old, and I was living on my own in Fort Worth, Texas. And I guess that's kind of the point I started really to build some self-resiliency. And I had sadly also at that time lost my grandmother, who was a huge support system in my life. So the military became an option to me prior to 9/11 as something that I could do to really build a good, strong foundation, structure to my life, and also kind of honor my family name and, just do the best I could to honor my grandmother. So I enlisted and was going to do the 4 years, get out, but I ended up absolutely loving it because they were paying me to just, essentially kind of like boys will be boys situation,
Right.
Go camping and all that kind of stuff and getting paid to do it. So 9/11 had happened when I was finishing up my initial training. And it's a day I will never forget, as many other Americans, and just the hurt of seeing that happen. And so after completing training, I was sent to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, in an airborne unit. And the thing with Fort Bragg at the initiation of the war is deployments were nonstop. You could consistently volunteer and go back and go back and go back, which was, it's an increased paycheck. And also to having, witnessed what happened, it felt very personal. So in 2002, I went to Afghanistan, and that was a rough deployment, but it really wasn't too bad for me because I had done the job similar to kind of like radar, and I was right underneath the general. So it was totally an awesome time for me, relaxing. And then I went back to Fort Bragg, and that's when I fell in love, married my wife, Marjorie, and we were about 3 months married. And I got the call to go to Iraq when that had initiated in 2003. So I went there, and that was far different from the battle space in Afghanistan. It was a little rougher, and I ended up losing a really good friend of mine on that deployment. And I guess in me, that was kind of like the first stab of when I started developing some form of PTS, just because we were very, very close. He was a great Christian man, and I was just kind of like someone who was very lost,
Right.
you know, in the way. And I didn't have, many adult figures to kind of go to, and Sergeant Crockett was that for me. So after losing him, I went back to Bragg and didn't do as good as I did after the Afghanistan deployment. Had a little bit of like disciplinary problems, but I was able to ship myself back into shape and be at the right place, at the right time, and do all the things. And another opportunity came up to be a machine gunner within a field artillery unit doing convoy security. And with my career path and goals I'd set for myself, that was a duty that would help me out further on down the road, promotions, so on and so forth. So I volunteered to go on that mission. And I also, too, interpersonally at that time, unbeknownst to me, but felt a lot of kind of like vengeance in my heart. My friend was killed. So I was very, very angry, about this and upset. So what better way to go back as a machine gunner, pulling security? So I went and did that. And that was in 2005 to 2006. And they referred to it as the bloody summer because it was, we went over there knowing 65% chance of success. So that gave you a 45% chance of getting injured by a roadside bomb, which isn't the best odds. But it was what it was. So you took your job very seriously. And my incident for PTS kind of happened over that 5 months period of just witnessing the horrors of war. So, things of just dead bodies, or where you're cruising past a vehicle. And I remember once there was an ID factory that blew up, and we were heading out to a town, and it was a dangerous mission. We had air support, and we couldn't stop and help. And, there's kids there bloodied up and stuff, and you just have to keep going because it's so dangerous. You just can't take the chance of stopping. So, just that and just all these gruesome images stick in your head. And then I ended up getting injured by a roadside bomb. And, it was very simple. It was a choke point, 90-degree turn, Murphy's Law, full effect. Anything that could have gone wrong kind of went wrong that evening. And I just made one right-hand turn, didn't see the bomb until it was too late. Blew up, and I ended up with the traumatic amputation of the left foot, the right leg flipped inside out. And then I ended up losing the majority of the blood and burning the tops of the lungs. So I was unconscious for about 4 days till they could get me to America from Iraq. So it was, it was kind of the experience to the other experiences in life. That was a chapter. And unbeknownst to me at this time, too, I had my wife who was young, and, we were both young, married, and we had that going on beyond my career. And when I was injured, I was injured at 23. So at the same age, she overnight became a caregiver to someone who was catastrophically injured. And that was my saving grace and my blessing in my transition. After, because what I went through caused me so many different problems throughout my life, whether it was self-medicating with alcohol or really denying a lot of the medical and cognitive issues I was having, and so on and so forth, and trying to just drive on and push through it. And, I just kept going down the wrong path every time. And she was always there to be patient with me, to help support and guide me. She was family caregiver of the year this year. She earned that award, and it's just her compassion, and that's made my transition really easy, and I think is why I can talk about it effectively
So
and put
Matthew,
it into words.
let me ask you this, and I want to dive into
Yeah.
but before I go to someone else, what I want to ask you is, you were young, your wife was young,
Yes.
and you don't get a call in the middle of the night that says you're gonna be a caregiver tomorrow. It just happens all of a sudden.
Yep.
What in hearing you, I can tell that your wife, is one of the reasons why you're smiling now.
Yes.
What advice would you give a young couple who injuries may not be as severe as yours, but one of them find themselves as a caregiver? What advice, to all that you've gone through, what advice would you give them?
I give them the same advice that was given to me. I'm gonna try to do it without choking up here, but my father-in-law, he was a Vietnam veteran, and he did an excessively hard tour over there, and he was also a chef. So when I returned to Maine, I was, of course, in a wheelchair at the time and mad at the world, couldn't do anything. And the advice he gave me is, what am I doing to help those who are helping me? And how much time am I spending? Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm going to repeat that.
How much time am I spending focusing on myself and on my own problems?
Yeah.
You can still do stuff. So he was like, you can at least cook, that you can help your family out doing this basic thing. And then you're at least, fulfilling my own interpersonal need to chip in and not feel, like everything was kind of stripped away too. So that's the advice I would give, and to always realize that when marriage is into play, that marriage is agreed to is forever, and that forgiveness and compassion are key. And that's the best advice I ever received. And that's what makes a marriage work, is communication, forgiveness, compassion, and really building it on a foundation of faith, whatever your faith may be.
Thank you, Matthew.
You're very welcome.
I'm holding back tears too. It's okay to cry. But I think what you said, I want to repeat, and I want people to hear what he said. What are you doing to help the people that are helping you? I mean, that statement is worth its weight in gold. So Matthew, we'll probably come back to you in a little bit, but thank you so much for your service, and thank you for your story. Don't stop telling it. And I salute your wife.
Yes, thank you.
I appreciate her for being there for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Garrett.
Okay.
Yep.
So next up, Dr. Robert R. Novell. Now, Dr. Novell, I'm going to bring him on screen. So Doc, I'm not going to get into these your long bio, other than saying you serve as the Deputy Chief Medical Officer for the VA Southeast Network. You've held various leadership and clinical positions within Virginia for the last 24 years. It's not the title that makes you the man, it's the man behind the title. So I want you to kind of begin sharing with us right away. And first, before you go into that, what struck you from Matthew's when Matthew was talking? What stood out to you as it relates to your work?
Well, first of all, I want to thank Matthew and all of our veterans for the service that they give to the country and to us, and give us the ability to live the way we're living. And Matthew is why I went to the VA. My brother, who is 4 years younger than I am, went into the military when I went into medical school. He is now a retired military officer. He was a wounded veteran. He actually suffered an injury, and we had to give him a kidney from one of my other brothers because he actually got sick, and that's why he had to retire. He did not want medical retirement. He said he wanted to retire with greater than 20 years. And so he stayed in and he retired. And he is one of the reasons that I work for the VA, because of the passion that he showed for the things that he did. And I feel as though the thing I can do for all of the people like my brother is to be the best doctor and give the best care. The reason that you said the plethora, as you said, of positions that I've held, they've been in multiple places, but I work on the weekend in the VA in the emergency department. So even though I'm an administrative position here as the deputy chief medical officer, I still go and work on the front line. And one of the things that struck me about Matthew is his resilience. The way he has overcome and the way he has taken something and he's, you know, how they say you take lemon and you made lemonade into it. Matthew is that shining example, and he is showing us how he is managing his PTSD by helping others. I really applaud that. But one of the things that I think about now is during this pandemic, how it can bring up all of those things of social isolation, not being able to do things. So, you know, using the technologies that we have here, that's how we're able to reach out to our veterans for their primary care and mental health needs, because the body is more than just a physical body, but it is the person behind the body, the mind. And as you could look at Matthew and see the emotions that he was going through telling his story, you have to understand that his mind is a big part of it. And so that's what I really loved about it, was the way he took people that he respected. You know, he went back and said, hey, I had someone that was in the Vietnam era. How did he overcome his transitions? And he used that mentoring. That is one of the other things I found in my career with veterans, is that they use the support system to help one another. And that's what we need as people, is to have this kind of avenue to be able to discuss things and to see that we're not in it alone, but we're in it together to win it.
I'm going to move myself over to the right, and we're going to bring up your partner in crime, Dr. Hampton.
That's the one that keeps me down. Okay.
So Dr. Hampton began her VA career in the 1995, the Birmingham VA, and has held leadership positions at the Carroll Vinson in Dublin, Georgia, and the Atlanta VA healthcare systems. Thank you so much for coming on. What kind of stood out to you as relates to your work when you heard Matthew?
So, and Dr. Norvell knows this. So first and foremost, to Matthew and his wife, I say thank you. The other piece is his story is very near and dear to my heart. I'm the spouse of a 100% service-connected disabled veteran with PTSD. And I understand exactly what it takes for a young couple to make it through such a trying time as what Matthew experienced. For me, I'm the daughter of a veteran who was Vietnam era. I am the niece of a Vietnam veteran. I am also the great niece of a World War II veteran. And so military life is near and dear to my heart. The story that Matthew tells is a story that we hear, you know, different ways, but similar all the time here, working in the VA. One of the reasons I decided to make the VA my career and my calling in nursing was because I love the way veterans have a way of taking the darkest situations and flipping them into something positive, exactly like Matthew talked about, and how it allowed him and his wife to come closer together and allowed him to see that there are still things that he can do to continue. And I made that decision in the early 90s when I was doing my clinicals at the Birmingham VA Medical Center, and met a veteran who had a drop of blood on his house coat. And I said, hey, I'll wash it, because the house coat was something near and dear to him. And took it home, washed it, and brought it back. And he was so thankful. He was like, I can't believe, a nurse would actually do something for me like this. And I just like the fact that veterans are so easy to work with and so appreciative of small things. And so for me, it's just a joy to do the work.
Great.
Understanding the disease process with PTSD, the toll it takes on a family, and also what it looks like when you are working through it and there is life after PTSD, rather during PTSD.
Okay.
And so, to Matthew, I tell you thank you. And to your wife, I'm sure she is an amazing person.
Yeah. So we're going to dive into some things to give our listeners an opportunity to ask some questions. So in the Atlanta VA area, let's start off with you, Dr. Hampton. In terms of in-person care, is your area open to in-person care?
So currently we are doing a lot of VA Video Connect, or rather virtual appointments. We are doing face-to-face care for those veterans who have a more critical need. What I mean by that are procedures like GI procedures for colonoscopies and upper GI testing, procedures for cardiology where we have to walk in. Also in the clinics, even though we're doing the virtual visits, there are some veterans who we have to bring in to see us. So in our clinic, or rather our outpatient areas, we are right at about between 25 and 30% face-to-face visits. So particular veterans, based on their diagnoses and based on where they are in their disease process, those veterans are allowed to come in for the face-to-face visits.
Okay.
Now, our virtual care visits, we are offering those to all veterans, and we have telephones. We even have the option to offer a iPad to those veterans who do not have electronic devices where they can receive care. And so we're really proud of that. But if a veteran shows up, at our clinic, we greet them at the door. We try to mitigate to see what's a better option for them with the walk-in process. We prefer that they have an appointment, but I can guarantee you if they walk to the door, someone will address their needs. If it's something very urgent, of course, we take that into account and we work expeditiously to get those things addressed. And so right now we're somewhere about 25% with our C-Box, but with the other care, our surgery, we're back up and running full throttle in surgery. We're running a full set between 7 and 8 surgical rooms, somewhere about 15 to 20 surgical cases a day. And we are trying to get those veterans in to make sure that we can take care of what they need to prevent them from having to go through other avenues to receive care.
Okay. Dr. Norvell, I'm coming to you next, I promise.
My partner in crime mentioned CBOC, and I'm not sure if everyone knows.
I need to say what that is. So, okay.
Keep her straight. She's supposed to be keeping you straight. Keep her straight.
Yeah. So let me apologize. So in VA land, it's sort of like the military, use a lot of acronyms. And so we have community out-based clinics, and we have about 18 of those, one near you, I'm quite sure. And so we do have those. So when I refer to the C-Box, I'm talking about our clinics. And those clinics are open, and we are doing care. We are seeing our veterans in our clinics, the ones who need that really hands-on kit kind of care. We're taking care of those veterans for additional needs. We're doing all blood collections, EKGs, and the full works.
Okay.
So, yeah. Thank you, Dr. Norvell.
Dr. Norvell, your partner mentioned an iPad, which makes me think, I want to make sure you explain telehealth and why it's important, for someone to look into that. So explain what telehealth is first to everyone, and then, make your pitch for why it's important for families to kind of get involved with that.
All right. So first of all, telehealth is generally described as the use of communication equipment, such as a phone, an iPad, your computer, to link healthcare practitioners and patients in different locations. Dr. Hampton and I used to get in a van, and we called it our Freedom Van. We used to drive from the Atlanta VA out to Carrollton, Georgia, which is approximately 50 miles through Atlanta traffic. Oh my God. I was the driver, and I had Dr. Hampton, my nurse. So we were running the community-based outpatient clinic called the Trika Davis Veterans Village. Veterans are the same wherever we go. And there is this bond that you have as a VA employee. Telehealth allowed us now not to commute that 50 miles, but to be able to see those veterans. We have veterans that are living there in the nursing home that Dr. Hampton, being the Associate Director of Patient Care Services, that means chief nurse. She was the person in charge of making sure that everything went right for those veterans at that nursing home. Now she is over about 1,300 nurses at the Atlanta VA, but she still needs to keep contact with those veterans at the nursing home. When she drives out there to see them, it's almost like she's never left. And they tell her, we need you to do this and we need you to do that. Well, telehealth is that ability to use a communication equipment. We used to, I'm going to be very common here and not going to show my education. We pimped out the TV at the Carrollton. We put a speaker on and we were able to deliver care for some of our veterans. One of the things they wanted to do was to die in the community living center, where that was their home. The VA has something called, the greenhouse model, where we wanted them to believe that this was their home and where they were. So if you want to be able to, live and die in your home, we were able to work with our doctors who were specialists in hospice and palliative care to be able to deliver the care to those veterans in the community living center, so that they could be able to die with the other veterans that they had learned to be. So telehealth is the use of communication equipment to link the healthcare practitioner who has a specialty and the patients that are in different locations.
Right, thank you. So I'm gonna bring the dynamic duo back, because I'm trying to get my other guest on, but I'm gonna put your information up. I promise I'm gonna bring you guys back, but there's information right there. If you wanna contact Dr. Robert Norvell, his information is on the screen. I am sure he will go above and beyond the duty to make sure that you get what you need, as well as Dr. Hampton. Thank you guys so much for your time, and time permits, we're gonna bring you guys back. Next up, we're gonna bring in Vita Brooks. Vita Brooks is Director of Women's Programs at the Georgia Department of Veteran Services. And Ms. Brooks, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
There you go. Got the butterfly in the back, so we all straight. So tell me about the services that you think the people need to know about today.
So I think the services that people need to know, basically, this is what I want you to know. I want you to know that the Georgia Department of Veteran Service has 52 offices. Most of our offices are open. The ones that aren't open are the ones that are located within a VA clinic or hospital for obvious reasons. But you can call any of the numbers that are listed in the Georgia Department of Veteran Service for our field offices, and you can receive an appointment if you can walk in, or we are now doing those claims online with you on the phone. We can fill out the application, get it to the veteran, and get their files claimed. So that's one thing. The other thing I want everyone to know is that while it seems like nothing is moving really over in the appeals department, it is. The hearings are still going. Georgia has the equipment to do hearings virtually now. So if you've been waiting for a judge and you've been in that line, you are now in line for to do it over the internet. The veteran stays home. The VSO is at their location, which is from home, and then the judge is on his own screen. Mm-hmm. And the VA will send you the link, and it's really easy to do. So don't opt out of that thinking it's going to be too complicated, because it won't. If you can use your smartphone to order Uber, then you can do this virtual hearing. So that is the good news.
Okay.
The not so great news is that here in Atlanta, we still don't have a clear date as to when the VA office will open back up for the benefits. So that means that you're still having to call and be online. So for that hour appointment that you would have for, let's say, educational benefits or whatever, now it's being done on the phone, which means that if you're not the very first one in there, it feels very like, are they ever going to get to me because you're on hold? But they do have a great callback where you can leave your number and then they will call you when your number is ready. So I recommend that is used.
Okay. We're right in the middle of the holiday season, just got through Thanksgiving and Christmas is coming up. And that's also a time of year that we deal a lot with depression, also a time of year that we deal with suicide. Can you talk to us about the suicide prevention program that you're spearheading?
Yes, so the suicide prevention program that I am leading here in Georgia is Governor Kemp's vision of preventing suicide amongst veterans, military, and their family members. So essentially what we have done is we have partnered with an array of nonprofit organizations, state organizations, and faith-based organizations.
Mm-hmm.
And we bring them together in the community, in their own communities, and we help them. The best way I can say it is that we come together to provide some resources, so some classes for the community that are free, but we also bring them together in a space so that each person knows what actually is going on in the community. And then the next phase is to help. Our job is to promote what is happening within those counties or those congressional districts, so that everybody knows where to go and how to make it work.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. So Dr. Norvell was telling us about telehealth. So the appointments, are they in person, or can they use telehealth for your appointments?
They can do both.
Okay.
So we have some in person. Everything is by appointment only to limit the number of people, and masks are required.
Mm-hmm.
But we have both.
Okay,
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Vita. And time permits, we'll bring you back. We're going to come up next with Nikhil Durham, Veteran Program Manager, Atlanta Center for Self-Sufficiency. Thank you, Nikhil, for joining us today. How you doing? Pretty smile.
Fine. How is everyone?
Everyone is doing fine. So right off the bat, we got acronym today, so you have to help me out. What is ACSS?
So ACSS is the Atlanta Center for Self-Sufficiency.
Okay.
We are a nonprofit agency, and we have existed over 30 plus years in the Atlanta area. We are located down in the 4th Ward, right behind Martin Luther King Center in the Wheat Street Baptist Education Learning Center. We are the premier workforce development agency for those who are homeless, those who are at risk to becoming homeless, and even those who are vulnerable and are in subsidized housing recently within the last 6 months. So when we say workforce development, we are speaking of a new way of doing things due to recent pandemic. We've had to gear up and be more flexible in our service delivery model. So some of the services that we provide are virtual workshops, employment relations, where we're networking with employers who are hiring. We provide teleconferencing, where we provide the peer groups for our individuals so that we maintain relationships. We no longer are in person doing case management or clinical therapy. So everything is done virtually through a platform, whether it's Zoom or Microsoft. It just really depends on the clients. Right now, as Matthew stated, PTSD is real and live. With the pandemic, it has increased with numbers. Typically, we would be bringing in at least 20 individuals per month. Now we're looking at a smaller number, but the impact is real. And so we're having to deal with less numbers, but more critical issues when it comes to getting back out in the workforce and having the equipment that they need. So there is a lack of housing, heightened mental health, basic necessities people are not getting access to. More importantly, everything is going on live. And so most of our clients don't have access to the internet, don't have access to technology. So we've teamed up with our partners, AARP, yes. We've also been always connected to the VA. We no longer, as it has been put out there, been able to be on site and provide that in-person community service. And so we're having to be more creative with the teleconferencing Just before this meeting, I was rushed to speak to 20 individuals to find out what's going on with them. What are their needs? We have a job fair next month. Or next week, I'm sorry. And so just getting everybody geared up with the resumes, with the clothing, with martyr assistance. All of those things are support services that we provide to our clients. We're also connected to Goodwill with their digital learning. So that gives our clients access to the technology. And if they're in a specific zip code, they will get a loaner laptop. We also provide scholarships for vocational training that allows individuals to be more marketable and get back into the game. A lot of people are changing careers. They're rethinking life and rethinking how they generate income to be more self-sufficient. So we're supportive of that through our grant with U.S. Department of Labor. It allows us to provide funding for training, for uniforms, for tools, for supplies when they're in school. So we have individuals who are right now in training for CDL, CNA, A+ network. I could go on and on with the type of training, but it's really dependent on the client and what their needs are, what work they are looking for. So that's the crux of what we're doing.
Okay, so I'm going to put your information up on the screen so if they want to contact you. And while that information is being put up, my question to you is, what are the eligibility requirements for your program?
So very simple. DD 214, anything but dishonorable discharge, a member 4 copy, ID, which could be state or driver's license, their social security card, and a verification of their homeless status.
Okay.
Be very clear, in the state of Georgia, you could be homeless if you are couch surfing. So we are talking about being literally homeless, being in transition, being at risk. Even if you are about to be evicted, you would be eligible. And if you are recently placed in housing within the last 6 months, you are eligible. So those are the eligibility requirements.
Okay. Thanks, Ms. Sarah. I'm going to keep up the good work, and we look forward to talking to you again soon. Stephanie Go, Family Service Home Repair Program Coordinator, Habitat for Humanity in Atlanta. She's our final guest for the day. I'm calling her Miss AARP. So, Stephanie, so, you know, just kind of reflecting on all that you've heard today, how important is it for veterans to just reach out?
It's extremely important. There's so many resources available, and I think that it's really hard for people to, know even what's out there, to know what questions to ask. So even just reaching out to one agency, we've probably all been in panels like this where we've heard of other agencies that can help. So, for instance, people who call me about housing, even if we can't help them, I can still connect them with places like ACSS. So yeah, extremely important.
Okay, great. So tell us about your program.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk today about our Repair with Kindness program that we offer at Atlanta Habitat. It is a critical home repair program. So it's not a housing program to get a new house. This is for if you already own a house and you just can't afford the upkeep, can't afford the critical repairs. It is not for cosmetic work like painting. It's really just critical repairs that would improve the homeowner's health, safety, accessibility, or the weatherization of the home. So that's things like roofing, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, replacing the windows, carpentry, accessibility things. We do a lot of ramps, grab bars in the bathroom, converting bathtubs to showers, vice versa, that sort of thing. The great thing about this program is our sponsors have been really generous with regards to veterans. So we have veteran funding for this program anywhere in the city limits of Atlanta and South Fulton County. The other qualifications are just that the house needs to be at least 15 years old. The homeowner must have owned the house for at least 1 year and have been living in it for at least the past year. Have an active homeowner's insurance policy, be current on any mortgage payments if there is a mortgage, current on property taxes. And then the only other thing is that we check for income. There's no minimum income requirement. It's just a gross monthly maximum that's based on HUD standards. So that's really all it is. So anyone who meets those qualifications and lives in Atlanta or Fulton County would probably qualify for this program. The other really cool part is there's no cost at all. It's completely free. We run it as a 5-year forgivable loan program. So we can do a maximum of $20,000 of repairs per house. And then the total cost of those repairs would just go against the house as that 5-year forgivable loan. And as long as the homeowner keeps living there and stays current on any mortgage payments, property taxes, and homeowner's insurance during that time, then at the end of the 5 years, the security interest is removed from the house and the loan is completely forgiven. There's nothing they need to pay back.
Okay.
Yeah, the reason we do that, it's really to make sure that the homeowner, like we're benefiting homeowners who want to keep their homes and not helping developers flip a bunch of houses for free. And that way we can also keep the neighborhoods affordable. And the other really cool part of this program is that we've partnered with National Church Residences. And it's just a partner program that's offering their Home for Life program for free to everyone doing the repairs with us. So it's really just access to more services on top of getting repairs. Their representative, Heather Murray, she would come out and do a separate home assessment to talk about anything else that could improve, the veteran's life. So that's things like access to medical or dental benefits they didn't know they qualified for, transportation benefits. They're doing a lot of meal delivery services right now for frozen meals or boxes of produce. There's mental health referrals, all sorts of things. So it's really kind of a wraparound service that we've partnered with.
Okay, so two-part question. Are the veterans expected to take part in the rebuilds or the repairs of the home, and how can one apply?
Yeah, so they're not expected to take part in the actual repairs of their own home because we use professional contractors. We don't use volunteers at all for the repairs. The only thing that they would be expected to participate in is something that we call sweat equity hours. They're volunteer hours that anyone going through one of our programs puts in order to get the free repairs or, to get the discounted new home. The minimum for this program is 20 hours, maximum's 40, and it's just based on the cost of the repairs that we're doing. But for anyone who, doesn't have the ability or the time to earn these hours themselves, they can have friends and family do some or all of those sweat equity hours for them. So it's really flexible.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and the other part you asked about how to apply. Just call or email me. We go through the pre-qualification questions over phone or over email. If you're pre-qualified, I'll mail you all of the info about documents you need to gather. And once you have your documents, you just come in for an application appointment.
Okay,
so just come directly.
All right, great. So I'm going to ask the producer to put everybody's face back up on the screen. I want to see everybody's face. And Vita, we have a question that we're going to give this question to you, Vita. The question was, we'll get our producer to put it up. How can local municipality agencies connect with the VA to provide resources to veterans? There it is right there. If you would answer that question for our listeners and viewers.
Connect to. Okay, so if you want to connect to the VA to provide resources, then you would contact the volunteer services. Now, when you are talking about providing resources, the VA is not in the habit of providing advertisement if you are selling something. But if you are doing something, giving things away, providing resources, then that is when that's what you do. You contact volunteer services. And if you're in the Atlanta area, I know it's Dr. Cooper, but there are many, every VA hospital has a person. So contact them. And then they will give you all of the appropriate things that you need to do. And then the friendship begins there.
Okay, great. Now, I'm going to make an executive decision. We're going to run over just a little bit. You're going to hear my computer say 12 o'clock, pay it no attention, because I want to go around the table. I want to give everybody closing comments, because this was such a great informative session. And, the hour goes by really, really quick. So we're going to start off with Dr. Norvell Jr., because I know he has a plethora of ideas and information to give out to us. So your closing comments, Dr. Norvell.
I would like to just thank the whole panel. This was a great panel. I compared you all to myself, and you were up there with me. Woo! I'm gonna give you all a round of applause. But very informative, and we give out the same information, because I noted when Vita answered the question, as a government employee, resources must come through voluntary services. So this was great. And I know the purpose of this was to actually give information, and especially for things that are going on in the world. But the VA is here for all of our veterans. We have a multitude of ways for people to get in touch with us: mobile apps, iPads, internet. And as Dr. Hampton even said, we will provide some of that information, some of the equipment that is needed for our veterans that need those things. So this was very informative, and I'm very proud to have been asked to be on this panel. So thank you so very much.
Thank you. Ms. Durham. Ms. Durham, we'll give you, you're on mute, I think. There we go.
I'm honored to be given the opportunity to rub shoulders with everyone on the panel. I am very excited to work with those veterans who are in transition. And I know that a lot of them don't have technology. And when we've been on here, a lot are not used to chatting on the site. So I do want to provide my number, which is 404-572-9025. For those of you who are not on the chat, to reach out to us so that we can either get you in a workforce development or reconnect you to any community partners. We are advocates for you, so you're not alone, is what I would like the message to be sent out. So thank you, everyone, for allowing me to join today.
Thanks. Dr. Hampton.
So for me, I want to say, echo what Dr. Norvell is saying. Really great panel. Thank you guys for the opportunity. I want to again say to Matthew, thank you for your service, and thank you for sharing your story. It keeps us going. To AARP, I have to say thank you to you guys, because you all were so gracious to our nurses here. You actually gave donated coffee mugs to our staff, which really helped increase staff morale. And so to you guys, I want to say thank you for that. My staff would kill me if I didn't say it. And we put little things of hot chocolate and just encourage them to stay safe and do some self-care items for them. For me, I want to say it's flu shot season. If you haven't gotten your flu vaccination, please do so. If you have any symptoms of COVID, do not get the flu vaccination at that time. See your provider and make sure that you talk to them about that. The VA is open, and we do have flu vaccinations ready and available in all of our different clinics. Just want to let you guys know that to take your flu shot. Don't forget to wear your mask. Make sure you keep your hands nice and clean. Wash those hands. Sing on McDonald, and that should be enough time. But want everybody to stay safe during this pandemic year. Appreciate it, and thank you so much for the opportunity. Really glad to be on such a great panel.
All right, Ms. Brooks. Ms. Brooks. You're on mute, Ms. Probably go.
Oh, hello. I do want to say thank you to AARP. They have never not supported the veteran community, and I so appreciate them for what they do for veterans. I also want to say it has been a delight to talk to everyone on this panel. I have learned some stuff. And Matthew, if you could please salute your wife for me, tell her she is appreciated and she is loved. And I may be reaching back out to you to get her to speak to some other caregivers, because we want them to stay encouraged as well. There was one other thing I wanted to mention, and that is the Vet Center. So if you are in need of help, because we've talked about PTSD, but the part that some people forget is that where the veteran lives is affected by the PTSD as well. And the Vet Center is a place where the veteran can take the spouse or the family in, and then they can also be able to get some counseling on how they can heal and how they can cope with what's happening at home. And I think it's important that we not forget that, just like with Matthew, when Matthew is walking through his trauma, so is his family. And so please look up your nearest vet center. There are, I believe, 7 in the state of Georgia, and reach out and see what you can do to make sure we're taking care of the family as well as the veteran during this time. But again, thank you. And it was a pleasure meeting all of you.
Okay, thanks. Stephanie.
Yeah, kind of just echoing everybody's sentiments here. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of this panel. It was so neat to hear about all these amazing programs going on. I'm excited to start referring people to everyone on here. And I just really hope that I hear from some of the veterans listening in soon, so that we can get some of those.
And one of the things that we are going to do, we're going to provide the link to this program. So in case someone missed it, they'll be able to see it in its entirety on Facebook, on the AARP Georgia Facebook page as well. And of course, on the G-Davis production site as well. So before I bring up Jill Hines, Matthew, I want to give you a moment. You started this whole thing off with your story. And you see the power of those that are watching and listening, the power of telling your story and the impact that it has.
Oh, thank you, Garrett. And well, thank you so I would have to say really to the other veterans out there is reminded of Two Roads by Robert Frost. 1% of America serves in the service. So automatically you're taking the path less chosen. It's going to be a harder path, and leads me into the last parable, which is a Cherokee parable of the two sides inside of every human being, which is represented in a good wolf and a bad wolf, your good side and your bad side. This is something we all have. It's our power of choice. So make the choice and feed the good side and really starve out the bad side, and it'll make a difference in your life.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, guys.
And again, tell your wife we said hello. And so last but not least, Jill Hines, we hope we did you proud today with AARP. Thank you for always being a great partner, and we just love I echo the comments. We love AARP.
Well, thank you. I want to first off thank everyone on the panel, from Dr. Norval, Dr. Hampton, Vita, my girl, and Nikhil. Thank you all. Stephanie, Garrett, love you. And, we got more work to do in 2021. Steph and Ashley, who we don't see behind the scenes running everything. So Ashley, we started this series off in August. We should have had you from the beginning, honey. But we brought it up. We got it worked out in the end. I just really want to say, before I go on, I want to Matthew and I worked together at another organization. It's a veteran organization. It's how I met Matthew, and I was just blown away by he and his wife, and the two of the sweetest, dearest, and most sincere and genuine people you will ever meet. And to know how he overcame his obstacles to go on at a young life and a young age to help other veterans and help other couples. We all went to a retreat in Delaware, where I would bring veterans there every year, and these veterans and their families who had never, veterans had in their families, their young kids, they were disconnected because of the injuries, that the family was torn and broken apart. By the end of that retreat that week, you would see those families embracing each other. They're putting down their devices and talking and hugging and embracing one another. And I'm talking about an entire community in this beach community that came together and embraced these families. And how Matthew and his wife came to this retreat and were able to help some of these young spouses to know how to deal with these injuries. I mean, it's a serious thing. It's a real serious thing to have to reintegrate families who have been torn apart because of war and injuries. And I just thank you, Matthew, from the bottom of my heart. And like I said to Garrett, Matthew, I'll be reaching out to you next year. We've got more work to do. And so with that, I wanted to say that this panel, when we first started this, Garrett, I didn't know what direction we were going to go. And I said, you know what? We can't do this and just talk the talk. We have to bring in dynamic people who are going to make a difference, who are already out there making a difference. And I wanted veterans out there to know what and who to reach out to if they're going through something. So I thank you guys from the bottom of my heart as we're going into 2021, in the midst of the holiday season. As Vita mentioned, suicide, depression is real. If you are caring for someone, if you know a veteran that's out there, I know we're in the middle of a pandemic, but reach out to them in some form or fashion, because we don't want to leave our brethren behind and leave them out there alone. And with that, I thank you guys and have a blessed holiday.
All right.